Is a crossbow that shoots 500 feet per second a bad idea? That is this episode of Death by Bunjie. I've been talking a little bit here on Death by Bunjie about the Ravin R500E, which I consider to be a pretty big deal as far as crossbows are concerned. It's the first commercially available crossbow to reach that 500 feet per second threshold, to meet that mark, to finally get us to 500 feet per second. Now, in the past, I have been a big critic of Ravin's advertising strategy, comparing their crossbows to rifles. I'm not a big fan of that. I've been very vocal about that. In fact, I did a podcast episode on my podcast, Talking with Bunjie. You can check that out if you haven't already. The title of that episode was Ravin Needs to Shut Up. And kind of the idea behind that episode was the comparison of crossbows to rifles creates unrealistic expectations in the minds of potential crossbow hunters, thinking that they can hunt with a crossbow the way they may have hunted with a rifle in the past. They're just two totally different things. If we keep comparing crossbows to rifles, we're sort of setting crossbows back. We're setting crossbow hunting back. The fear is that we will lose our status as archery equipment. Now, recently I did get an email from a friend of Bunjie off deathbybunjie.com, my website. You can go on there and contact me if you're ever interested in sending me a personal note. You can leave me a voicemail on there. You can send me an email right off of that webpage. My concern with the 500 feet per second Ravin is that there may be the possibility that we're on our way of getting kicked out of the archery season. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but a lot of our argument for inclusion was the fact that crossbows had around the same numbers as compound bows. By numbers, I mean feet per second and kinetic energy. Now, I do understand the sentiment behind that concern. I really do. I've been hunting with a crossbow now for over 11 years, and going back to a time when crossbows were not as widely as accepted as they are today. When we legalized the crossbow back in 2009 here in Pennsylvania, there was still a lot of skepticism about whether that was a good idea. There was a lot of complaints that this is more like a rifle than a compound bow. It's more like rifle hunting than archery. The reality is, however, even back at that time, compound bow speeds were approaching but not reaching crossbow speeds. In other words, crossbows at that time were hitting the 350 feet per second mark. Some of them were toying with the 400 feet per second mark, but compound bows were hovering around the 300 feet per second mark at that time anyway. Fast forward to today, here we are 10 years plus later, only one crossbow is reaching the 500 feet per second threshold. It's not like all of them are. The vast majority of crossbows are still in that 350 to 450 foot per second range, the new modern crossbows. So really, when you look at things over time, we're kind of in the same boat where we were 10 or 11 years ago. Also, it's worth pointing out that this is a $3,500 piece of equipment. It's not like everybody in the woods is going to be using these this fall. Now, the concern about being relegated to the rifle season instead of the archery season, yeah, that's something that doesn't fall on deaf ears here. I certainly do understand that. I mean, I've been doing a video here now and then and mentioning New York State. I live very close to New York State, but I don't hunt there. I don't drive to New York State and hunt because pretty much you're limited to a very small window of archery season to hunt, the October, November seasons, and instead expected to hunt primarily as a rifle hunter in New York if you choose to hunt with a crossbow. I'm not interested in doing that, so I take my business elsewhere. I'm not too worried about crossbows being taken out of the archery seasons and pushed into rifle seasons. Not at this stage of the game. The reason I say that is crossbow hunter numbers. More and more we are adding to crossbow hunter numbers. There are more and more of us. When we started crossbow hunting legally back in 2009, crossbows didn't account for an awful large share of the deer harvest, but when you look at it today, over time, that changed significantly. In fact, today in our archery seasons in Pennsylvania, crossbows account for 60% or so of the deer harvest during the archery seasons. More deer are killed with crossbows than compound bows. I don't see the Game Commission giving that up. That's a lot of successful hunters that you would be upsetting. So I don't think that we have that much risk in this day and age of losing this status. I'm aware that there's an occasional movement going on in some states, but I see crossbow numbers only increasing in the future, not decreasing. To me, the idea that we shouldn't have a 500 feet per second crossbow for fear of upsetting the compound bow guys, that argument doesn't hold water with me at all. In fact, I think we should shy away from that kind of argument. Think about that. That's like saying, well, I shouldn't go out there and I don't want to kill that nice buck. I don't want to shoot 2 deer this season because I might upset the compound bow guys that also wanted to kill those deer. That's not the kind of world I want to live in. That's not my hunting lifestyle that I want to live. I want to go out there and I want to have the absolute most success that I can enjoy in my seasons. And if that means killing a big buck, or if that means shooting a couple of does with my crossbow, so be it. And it needs to be pointed out, too, that not all compound bow hunters, by any stretch of the imagination, are included in that group of hunters who don't like crossbows and don't think that crossbows should be included in the archery seasons. There are plenty of people out there hunting with compound bows who are friends of Bunjie, and I thank you very much. Some of you have appeared on Death by Bunjie videos, Death by Bunjie, Talking with Bunjie podcasts. So that's certainly a fact. My buddy Scott, he's in that group of compound bow hunters who really doesn't have a problem with people who hunt with crossbows. Ravin's recent 500 feet per second accomplishment, that means an awful lot, not just to the crossbow industry, but to compound bows, right? That technology is something that will trickle down for use in other models of crossbows, but also in compound bows. Really, I just don't think we should shy away from technology as important as this, just for the sake of not upsetting a few people. Food for thought, and I hope you got something out of this video. Thank you for watching Death by Bunjie. Check out deathbybunjie.com. Sign up for the free email newsletter so you can get weekly updates from me and from Bunjie and from Bunjie Jr. and my daughter Genevieve. That's fun stuff, right? Until next time, all hail Bunjie.